Family, welcome back. Have you guys heard about this guy living out in California that's making about $6,000 a month in income on tiny houses? Have you heard about that? Well, if you haven't, keep watching. I'm going to tell you about the story in a minute. Consider tiny houses. Minimize your debt. Get rid of all the stuff that you have in storage. Focus on your needs versus your wants. Go tiny, go tiny. Well, I don't care what state it is. I don't care what country it is. Consider a tiny house. I think it's a win-win. Minimize your debt. Live simply. Peace of mind. That's what it's about, guys. But listen, have you noticed across the country, across the U.S., there is a major interest in tiny house living? I've noticed it, and I'm personally really excited about tiny house living. Guys, I told you, I had the big house at one point. I had a 4-bedroom, it was 4 bathrooms, it was on a finished basement, and you know what? I gladly and happily sold it. Bye-bye. No regrets whatsoever. And I did a major downsize. So when it comes to tiny house living, I can listen. I can jump on that wagon. I definitely can. My major downsize. I'm in a significantly smaller house. And you know what? I have no regrets. I don't miss all that unused space. Can you relate, guys? Drop me a comment, guys. Do you like a big house? Are you already living in a small house? Drop me some comments. Where are you watching from? For me, listen, guys, I'm in Georgia. I'm in the USA. And I could see myself living in a tiny house one day. I'm not quite tiny, but I'm not far from it either. Listen, this tiny house thing is very attractive. First of all, when you go to living in a tiny house, you're automatically minimizing your expenses. And I like that. Reducing my monthly expenses, oh, that's very attractive to me. Is it attractive to you? Do I have your attention? Let me know in the comment section. Have you already thought about living in a tiny house? Let me know. Listen, when it comes to living arrangements and houses and tiny houses and things like that, listen, those types of things interest me because I'm a real estate broker, so I have to stay on top of these things. And I actually have this client who lives in Florida who's thinking about holding on to the Florida house and perhaps doing something in California regarding tiny houses. So that's why I've got to do my research for my clients. So first of all, tiny houses, you get to minimize your monthly living expenses, household, okay? Overhead, you get to minimize that, absolutely. You get to simplify your life. Already, tiny houses should be very attractive to you, all right? It should be. Let me know in the comment section, all right? So anyway, and also some of you might be interested in buying a tiny house, okay, that is movable. Like trailers. You see these tractor trailers driving down the road. Well, the actual trailer can be used to actually build you, all right, a tiny house. And if one is not enough, I'm fine. You can buy 2 and have it renovated, or you can buy 3 or whatever you want. The average tiny house is about 400 square feet. And let me give you an example to that. 400 square feet is approximately a 2-car garage here in the U.S. So 400 square feet, I think it's a good thing. It's good. I would prefer maybe 800 if I'm going to go tiny. But 400 square feet, if the layout is designed right, it can be very suitable for a person, for a family. It can be. Let me know, what size house do you live in? What's the square feet that you live in right now? And how small could you go? Drop me some comments, guys. Listen, it was surprising to me when I came across this information about tiny house living in California and the possibility of making thousands of dollars a month in income. That was a big surprise to me. It was huge. I loved it. I'm like, what? I couldn't wait to tell my client about this. possible income of having, let's say, 2 or 3, perhaps trailers, some type of tiny house of a sort, okay, on a property. I couldn't wait to tell my client about it. I really couldn't. So, listen, anyway, getting back to that story about this guy. He's in California. And guys, guess where in California he lives? And he's doing this awesome thing, making all this big money. He's in Oakland. That's right, guys. This guy is in Oakland, California. And he has not one, but two. He has 2 tiny homes, okay, that are movable, okay? All right, plus he has his garage, okay, that he renovated. So basically that's 3 tiny houses that he has in his backyard, and his income is about $6,000. That's $6,000 US a month. Yes, he's got his main property, which is small and modest, your main house. He's got that. But he's got 3 separate tiny houses, basically, making all this money a month in Oakland, California. I think that is exciting. I was so surprised to get that piece of information and pass it along to my client. Now, here's the thing about tiny houses. Whatever state that you live in, whatever country you live in, you've got to look at this closely. What are the city guidelines regarding tiny houses? What's the county guidelines regarding tiny houses? There's going to be some type of guidelines. You want to research that thoroughly before you just go out and buy a tiny house or actually have one built, okay? You definitely want to do that, okay? So, but anyway, this tiny house thing is quite attractive. I came across another story. Now, this guy is a YouTuber, okay? And, okay, he's a YouTuber. He's out, he's actually in New Zealand. He was an actor, and then things just, was just not going well for him. Wasn't making any money, wasn't getting any, acting calls, that type of stuff. So he decided to go tiny, all right? And it evolved into him having a YouTube channel. Well, he's out in New Zealand, all right? And he built his tiny house about 4 years ago, all right? And he built it, and it cost him about $100,000, okay? All right, and he basically gave us the scenario in US dollars, okay? But that $100,000 investment that he made on his tiny house, he actually has his tiny house parked somewhere, and and he's paying a small rent to have it parked on someone's property, okay? And the neighborhood that he has his tiny house in, he's got this great ocean, with a quick drive to the ocean. I'm like, well, I could get used to that. He's basically parking his tiny house in $1 million neighborhood in New Zealand. Listen, check out his channel when you get a chance. Yeah, he's a big YouTuber, all right? I think his channel is called Living Big in a Tiny House. Something like that. Check it out. True story, guys. And so he travels all over the country, just all over the place, interviewing people regarding tiny house living, their style, their lifestyle. And that's his lifestyle himself. That's a wonderful thing, guys. Let me know, guys. Are you already planning to do your research on tiny house living? Listen, you can do a trailer. You can do that. For me, yeah, I can think about a trailer. I might do like 2 trailers, put it like an L shape, add a deck to it, because wherever I live, I'm really big on outdoor space, having some place where I can sit and enjoy the sunlight today. It's about 58 degrees here in Georgia. Let me know, what's the temperature where you're watching? Let me know. So yeah, I like to have outdoor space wherever I'm living, okay? Yeah, so so I could do an L shape, two trailers put together. I could do that easily, in any state, practically in any country. I could see myself living in trailers, modified, renovated, some bells and whistles, but I'm not going to go over the top, okay? Because that would defeat the purpose, because the whole purpose of going tiny, yeah, less space, simple, but also less expenses. I want to just reduce my expenses, wherever I possibly can. So listen, this tiny house thing. Now, some people they like to renovate. Let's say an RV. They get an old RV, and renovate it real nice, and they can use that as their tiny house. Maybe they're not moving it. Maybe it's just going to be stationary, and they only move it maybe like once a year, once every other year. Something like that. So tiny house living has different styles. It all depends on what a person wants. Some people do tiny house living in a van. Well, that's van life, right? But it's still tiny, isn't it? It all depends on what you want. Do you want to travel with your house? Do you want to park your house? How small would you like your house? How much space do you really need? How much space do you really want? Those questions you've got to ask yourself really long and hard, okay? Because it's a big decision to move from a regular, brick house, or, whatever type of house it is. I'm partial to brick. If I'm going to live in a house, it's got to be brick, okay? I love brick, all right? Yes, I do. That's my thing, okay? I like a brick house, and I like outdoor space. Can you tell? Yes, that's me. But anyway, guys, yeah, so I want you to take a look at tiny houses, okay? Those of you that are fed up with the big monthly expenses on the house that you live in right now, take a look at tiny houses. Whether it's California, whether it's Florida, across the U.S., tiny houses are on the uprise. If you haven't noticed, well, you need to pay attention and look at these things, okay? Many states, there's more states than I can count, that has a tiny house movement than not, okay? Listen, I think it's a wonderful opportunity for a couple to become a homeowner also, because the prices are reasonable, okay? You can park it somewhere and pay a small rent, or you can buy land somewhere, okay? And it's possible. If you put your mind to something, guys, it's achievable. It does not have to be a big house with a big monthly payment and the insurance with it and all the other expenses that goes with a big house. Now, here's the thing, guys. Keep in mind, I'm a real estate broker. And yes, I love selling houses, but whatever my client has an interest in, I like to help them find. I like to help them purchase. If they're in a house and they want to sell it and do a downsize, I'm here to assist, okay? But I'm talking about tiny houses today, and I'm excited about it. I really am. I like the idea of just living within your means. I like the idea of just living with what you need and forgetting about all the want stuff. For me, I notice a lot of people have these storage units where they're paying these monthly payments. They got the big house, but they also got a big storage unit where they're paying a monthly payment. I totally disagree. I think that's wasted money every month, and that's money that's adding up to thousands. So it's not my cup of tea at all. Let me know how do you feel about people who have all these storage units and the monthly payment that goes along with it. I think it's a crying shame. I'm like, get rid of the stuff. It's not about stuff. Have the best quality life that you can with you and your family, and reduce your expenses. I've noticed, the more people I meet, the more bills you have, the more stress you have. The more debt you have, the more gray hair, the more stress you have. Notice I don't have a whole lot of gray hair. I don't dye my hair at all. Whole other story, all right? But yeah, I truly believe in minimizing my expenses. That's me, guys. I like to minimize my expenses. I don't want to have debt. Monthly, annually, what have you. I want to minimize it in every which way. Another thing people do is they try to buy these big houses and say, "Oh, I'm going to hold on to the house for my kids." Now, listen, your kids now, 10 years from now, may not be interested in your big house or where the house is located or whatever. And you know what? I went through that personally. I had the 4-bedroom house, 4 bathrooms on the finished basement. Thought my daughter would eventually move into the basement and be happy. And no. By the time she came of age, she was not interested in living in the basement. She didn't like the idea of and it was a really nice basement, all finished, lovely. She just didn't like the idea of living in the basement, thought the basement was creepy. Okay, fine. So, perfect example. Your kids may not be interested in living in that big house that you're trying to save for them or the grandkids. And a lot of times you're holding on to a house that still has a mortgage debt, which, who told you that your kids are going to be able to pay for that mortgage or maintain that big house, taxes, etc.? Who told you that? Whole other discussion will go into detail in the future. But in the meantime, guys, consider tiny houses. Minimize your debt. Get rid of all the stuff that you have in storage. Focus on your needs versus your wants. Go tiny, go tiny. Well, I don't care what state it is. I don't care what country it is. Consider a tiny house. I think it's a win-win. Minimize your debt. Live simply. Peace of mind. That's what it's about, guys. Peace of mind. Guys, as always, I hope you like my content. I do. And if you do, please subscribe. Please join the family. Hit that subscribe button. I like the idea of a big family. I can truly handle a big family. I'll always keep you informed. I'll keep you encouraged. And I'll definitely motivate you. This is Nala. I'll see you guys in the next one.